Welcome back to the channel, guys and gals. So, last couple of shorts, you saw the quick kit bash that I did. That was the two gondolas that were put into basically an O gauge version, which I'm completely good with because no gondola is very uniformed. Some places do use a shorter gondola depending on the area that it's in, and some do use a longer gondola. I've seen high side, I've seen low side gondolas, especially being at the fact I used to go into a lot of steel mills and pick up a lot of steel. So I got to see a lot of different things, especially in industrial. Um, Running rail out to California, I got to see a lot of things people don't get to see on the railroad, such as, yes, a true double and triple dome tank car that was painted in UP green, and they were there strictly for fueling diesel locomotives. And quite interesting. I've seen some things most people haven't seen. Like I've been inside the UP Roundhouse in Cheyenne. I have stood in front of the Big Boy. I've stood in front of the Challenger and the 484. There's things in that music in that Roundhouse people won't ever see. I've had a chance to see them, and that's just things that has been around. So some of my stuff people say, well, that's not prototypical. Yeah, that's not always true. That is very not always true. Sometimes one-off things are built for a purpose, such as the tank car that's actually in a museum. I believe it's in Maryland. I want to say it's a 96-foot tank car. It was a specialty built, and it was supposed to be to limit the amount of tank cars on the rail. It was a prototype, and there was only like 5 built, and there's only one existing today. Uh, Being in the hobby as long as I have been since I was 2 years old, I've got to see a lot. And so some of those times I do run off stuff, and still, even today at 46 years of age, I still learn something new every day, such as when I came across the diesel tenders. Well, I had never heard of a diesel tender, being put it that way. And I was like, well, I knew about auxiliary tenders, but I'd never heard of the fact that they used them behind diesel locomotives in the early diesel era. So that was really interesting in how they came about. Um, Here is the gondola. I did paint it last night. Um, Very, very nicely done. You can see one little blemish right there, which probably won't see it once I put the lettering on it. You have to pay real close attention to these side beams to see what's thicker, but we're just going to call that a repair. And then I still got to paint the bottom side of this to make sure everything's uniformed, and then letter it. So, and then I'm going to put a load in it. May put a coal load in it or a rock load. I haven't really decided yet. One's about as good as the other, I guess, at this point. So there's that. Fixing to run up, go do my taxes, because I've got to get those filed today, which is going to be a nightmare. A little bit of a nightmare, not much of one, just a little bit. But then when I get back, I will start splitting these tender shells to make the second long tender, which will go behind the UP locomotive, also known as the Guss Hadley Special. And if some of y'all might know, Guss Hadley's been on this channel for a while. He's got a YouTube channel called Guss Hadley, Lunatic from Arno. I really, really encourage y'all to go check out his channel. Very knowledgeable man. The gentleman he's retired from the railroad. He's still a railroad nut, and he and I talk a lot. And I learned a lot of new stuff from him along the way. Very, very knowledgeable man. But yes, these tenders came in a parts lot. That one is broke, as you can see. The screw holes up here are broke out on both sides. This one is the screw holes are broke out on all 4 corners, which these are what reason when I buy stuff like this, these are just for projects. And looking forward to getting the second one done. And then move on to the third diesel tender, which will be for the 2025 back over here. I do like a big tender behind my locomotives. If I was running regional or something like that, I see this short tender, but something about a big tender behind a big locomotive just makes sense. Don't ask me why, it just does. And we'll get into that one as I do that, because at that point, when I start redoing a new tender for the 2025, I'm going to try, well, not going to try, I'm going to have to. I'm going to go ahead and repaint the shell on the 2025, put the new boiler front on it, and make everything uniform to match. I've got the paint, I've got everything. It's not costing me nothing, so why not? That's another good thing about this hobby, is that there's a lot that you can do that won't cost you an arm and a leg. It's just a matter of the approach that you go to it, and what you decide to do. Like I picked up wheel sets. I picked up a lot of like 20 wheel sets for $5 off of eBay. It cost me $3 shipping, $8, 20 sets. You can't beat that. Sometimes I do have to go out and purchase Atlas trucks, and that works out really well. Some of the 027 that was missing, smaller pieces that were missing, trucks, I was able to replace those with Lionel metal sprung trucks, and it added the much needed weight they needed, and actually tracked so much better. So stuff like that. But going back to the gondola, which I apologize, the only thing I got left to do is the lettering. I think I have all the lettering here to do that. If not, I go get a package of it. It's like $1.99, but I don't want to spend that money, especially if I got the lettering. So the maintenance away train is definitely coming along. Again, this one will be lettered End AM. We may have a few others coming to the channel before long. I need to get a couple more flat cars. So I can put a 143 scale dozer on it, backhoe, some minor stuff like that, and a crane car. So that would be something I'll be looking into in the future. Maybe do some horse trading. I've got a ton of cabooses, and I'm thinking maybe one of them might wind up getting kitbashed into a lone caboose and getting raised just a little bit, and increase the window size on them, and build a U.S. Navy control caboose. Some of y'all might know that the U.S. Navy and U.S. Air Force have built several of these that go on the railroad. It's basically a command center, and it's a very interesting caboose. It's one I've looked at building a couple of times. Still, I'm like, I don't know if I really want to go into that, because then we're looking at buying more shells. But I got 2 shells here, and to give it the proper length, I'd have to have a 3rd shell to be able to cut and splice everything together. So I have no idea what I'm going to do on that one. I will figure that out later if I decide to do that one. I like interesting rolling stock on my stuff. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, I hope y'all enjoyed the rambling and the way that the Kitbash gondola came out. My son is absolutely loving it, because he says, "Hey, Dad, we got more of these gondolas." It's like, yeah, that maintenance way train's going to get bigger. And he's liking some of the stuff that's being done. I may have to pick up a couple of cheap body shells for coaches and turn them into work train cars or whatever. But we'll get it there. Just a little bit at a time, a little bit over time. Don't rush it. Have some fun with it. And who knows, I might do another World War II era style build on those. And who knows what I mean? What do y'all mean? Somebody's going to ask, what do you mean by World War II style build? Well, for instance, for those of you who don't know, during World War II, Lionel was not building trains. They were actually building parts for the U.S. military. And so when people were needing stuff, of course, they would outsource a lot of different stuff. And one of the things that they would do would be people that still wanted to keep modeling, and the children, well, they would build a lot of their rolling stock and stuff out of wood and cardboard with a resin coating on it. In fact, one of the cars that I built on this channel was done exactly just like that, and that was the F&M baggage car that I built. And that one's still just as strong today as it was the day I put it together. So those are little things that you'll find, so when you start looking at some of these older trains and you're seeing some cracking and the paint doesn't look right, be sure to check them out really well, because they may not be what you think they are, and they deserve that chance to preserve that little bit of history. As always, keep the shiny side up, rubber down. I'll see you on the next video when I get back from doing my taxes, and I will see y'all then. Y'all have a wonderful day.